So another thing you want to make sure with your since I'm up here in the center, is we've already greased some pivots up. The next thing I want to talk about is on page 10 in your FD1 book and page 6 in my FD75 book, and that's my feed draper bearings. So flipping to that page right now. So on the bottom of this frame here, my idler shaft at the front here, you won't be able to see the zerks, but there's from the bottom side, lift your header all the way up in the air, put your feeder lock down, and there's grease zerks at the front on both of these up here, and then there's a grease zerk at the rear back here for my rear bearing. Over here on this end here, there's a motor over here. So them bearings, actually change the service intervals on them now, and they want you to grease them bearings every 10 hours. So when you grease them, there's actually like a little dust cap on there, just like a hub on an axle for an implement or whatever. When you grease that zerk, make sure when you're greasing that, don't give that thing more than 4 or 5 pumps, and watch that cap to make sure that cap doesn't pop loose when you're greasing it, because if you grease that chamber builds up with grease and then it pops the cap loose, and then that cap's going to fly off and you have a bearing failure. So the next thing we're going to cover is my feed belt tension. So FD1, that's on page 19, FD75, that's on page 12. So it varies by different models. So you want to use your corresponding book. So your feed draper tension, so what they have here on the bottom side, there's a tensioner on both sides. So I have this little block here on the side. So an FD1 actually has got an indicator window where there's a spring in here. As you tension this bolt up, it increases the pressure on that, pushes that idler shaft forward to keep my correct tension. So in the middle on an FD1, there's actually a slot there, and you want that belt or that tension indicator in the middle of that slot right there. If you got an FD75 or a 2162, you basically want the back edge of this plate that is pushing in the spring in this pocket here, you want that to be flush with this welded pocket that's on the side here.